Hi, my name is Cassie Milligan, and welcome to our October CGHS virtual coffee chat. Thank you for joining us, and I'd like to introduce Ms. Katrina Cole-Garner, who will be joining us as our special coffee chat guest for today. And then Ms. Gardner, if you'd like to go ahead, you can share your screen and go from there.
Perfect. Good morning, everyone. Just allow me 1 minute and I will get my presentation up for you. So as Ms. Milligan said, my name is Katrina Cole-Garner, and I am one of the coordinators in the Office of Advisement and Counseling for Gwinnett County Public Schools. And in that role, I support Academy school counselors and also Career Academy specialists. The Career Academy specialist that is assigned to Central Gwinnett High School, Dr. Rhonda Young, is out on leave. And so I am filling in this morning on behalf of the Central Gwinnett High School counselors and Dr. Young. So Ms. Milligan asked me to talk about, the bulk of our presentation will focus on financial aid, FAFSA, and scholarships. We'll also spend some time talking about how to support your high school student as they prepare for life after high school. And so our first topic for this morning is financial aid and FAFSA. And I want to ask you, or encourage you, if you have questions, to please put those in the chat, and we will check periodically for questions so that we make sure we answer those before we finish our call this morning. So when we talk about financial aid and FAFSA, one of the first things I want you all to know as parents is that there are two types of financial aid or two types of scholarships. And there is merit-based and there is need-based. And so merit-based is going to reward students for having really high grades, really strong test scores, some type of skill that they have is being rewarded. And so typically with merit-based scholarships, there is no type of financial requirement that students or families need to make. Whereas with need-based scholarships, students will typically, even if students have the really strong grades or the really strong test scores, there will also be some income requirements or some income caps that families cannot go above. And so those are generally the two different types of scholarships that students have access to. And so what I'll spend my time talking about on this page are really things that our senior parents should be aware of. And if you're not a senior parent, it's still useful information because you'll be 1 year or 2 years ahead of the curve. So if you do have a senior right now who attends Central Gwinnett High School, one of the first things that we want to make sure is that they have their Social Security number on file with Georgia Student Finance. It should be on file here at the school, but Georgia Student Finance, who is the organization who oversees the Hope Scholarship, that is one of the main requirements that students have to have before they graduate to make sure their Hope Scholarship funds follow them when they go to college. And so within the state of Georgia, these are all state-based scholarships that you see here. We have the Hope Scholarship, we have the Hope Grant, we have Zell Miller, and all of those programs are giving to residents of Georgia. And I put the website there. All of our students should be very well aware of these different scholarships, and all of the counselors and throughout the building, there are brochures that talk about the requirements for the Hope Scholarship and the Hope Grant. The Hope Scholarship, there is a 3.0 core GPA requirement that students must meet. One of the neat things about the Hope Grant is this grant is targeted for students who are attending one of the technical colleges in Georgia. And so there are some really great benefits to using this Hope Grant. There are also some programs that are called high demand programs that will offer students additional funds, so much so that in many cases, students are able to attend one of our technical colleges for almost zero contribution from the family. And so make sure that you and your student know about these scholarships, have them stop by the counseling office to get the brochures, and make sure that they have an account on GA Futures to make sure they are prepared for that application process. The other thing you'll see there is GSFAA apps. That is an application because if a student completes their FAFSA, they will automatically be considered for the Hope Scholarship. But if a family knows they may not qualify or may not want to complete the FAFSA application, they can simply fill out the Georgia Futures application to make sure that if they are eligible, the Hope Scholarship funds are applied to their account. And so that's a little bit about our state-based programs. Institutional scholarships, this is another one I think sometimes students or families may overlook. If your student is a senior, in addition to some of the scholarships that are posted and shared with students through various websites or through the Central Gwinnett scholarship list, many colleges will have their own scholarships that they offer. And so students should be sure to check those college websites. Sometimes the information is posted on a financial aid page or section. Sometimes the information is posted within specific programs, but you want to always make sure that you check for institutional scholarships. And sometimes they even have their own deadlines. And so make sure that we don't miss out on those opportunities by looking within the specific schools that your students are applying to. The next thing is another place for students to find scholarships is through scholarship search engines. And so these are designed for students. Typically, they have to create an account, give some information about their interests, some of their hobbies, their major, what type of schools they want to apply to. And then generally, those search engines will give the students back a list of scholarships that they should consider applying for. At the end of our presentation, I have a list of those scholarship search engines that students can access if they have not done so already. Another resource I wanted to make sure you all knew about was the Gwinnett County Public Schools Foundation scholarships. That application is listed on the Central Gwinnett High School Counselor webpage. It is open only for students who attend Gwinnett County Public Schools. And so the application is open now, and we strongly encourage students to go through that list and apply for as many of those scholarships that they may qualify for. And then lastly, another place for students to find information about some other scholarships is through the Central Gwinnett High School Counselor webpage. And they also will list scholarships on the e-class page that students have access to through their portal. And this scholarship listing will have local scholarships that are offered as well as some of the national ones that are listed. So that's a little bit about financial aid and scholarships. Next, I do want to dive a little deeper into the FAFSA part. And so FAFSA, and I want to make sure that you all understand what that stands for. It is the Free Application for Federal Student Aid. And so this is the one application that students need to complete, or one of two actually, that students need to complete in order to qualify for any federal student aid, and that includes loans and grants. So loans do have to be paid back once a student graduates, and then your grants is money that does not have to be paid back. And so hopefully you all know or have heard that the FAFSA application opened up October the 1st, and students can go ahead, if they have not already done so, get started on completing their FAFSA application. I have here listed where you go to start your application. You're going to go to studentaid.gov, and one of the pieces of information that a student and a parent will need is an FSA ID. This is how you log in and create an account and start your FAFSA application. And it's really important here, which is why I have it underlined. The student needs a FSA ID, and then the parent also needs an FSA ID. So if your student comes to you and is asking you for some of your financial information and for their FAFSA application. I just want you to know that it is a legitimate request. Many times, one of the pieces that slows students up is the parents not completing their part. So I would just want to strongly encourage you to please work with your students, and feel free to call the school and talk to the counselor. They can answer some questions for you. But if you are at home and you all get started on your application and you get stuck or not clear about one of the questions that they're asking you, we've listed the Student Aid Information Center, the hotline number. They're open every day from 8 a.m. until 10 p.m. And you can call that number and they can answer any questions that you have related to the FAFSA application. And then once the application is done, we just strongly encourage you to check your email regularly for requests that colleges may have and any updates that they may have for students. That's one of the biggest complaints or concerns that colleges have and have expressed to us, is that many times the application is held up because students don't respond to requests for more information or requests for clarification. So please encourage your students to check their email regularly once they have completed their FAFSA. All right, so for those parents that are on the call this morning who have students in 9th through 11th grade, I want to talk to you a little bit about some things you can do, some things you can encourage your students to do to make sure they are a competitive applicant when it comes time for them to start applying for scholarships. And so one of the first things that students and parents can do is to review your student grades at the end of every semester. This is going to allow you to monitor their GPA, their grade point average, which is an important part of the college admissions process. Every college will have a different requirement for admissions. But one of the best things students can do to make sure they are competitive if they want to earn money to help pay for college is to review their grades at the end of each semester. And once a student has an account on GA Futures, they can also track their HOPE eligible GPA. And so the GPA that students have at school is going to be different than the HOPE GPA, because the HOPE GPA is just a core GPA. And so that looks at all of the academic classes, and that is used to calculate the HOPE GPA. So that's going to be a little bit different than what you see on the school's transcript, okay? Another activity that students can do to make sure they are competitive scholarship applicants is to actively engage in extracurricular activities. So whether that's athletics or other school organizations or CTSOs, that's one that I think is really helpful for students who need more exposure to maybe some career exploration. And so our CTSOs are our career and technical student organizations. And so you may have heard of Beta Club or DECA or FBLA. Those are some examples. But getting involved in extracurricular activities is not just good for winning scholarships. It helps your student just become a more well-rounded young adult. And so even after they're engaged and become members of these extracurricular activities, as they move up in grade levels, I would strongly encourage them to move into some leadership roles in those clubs and activities. So maybe after the first 1 or 2 years as a participant, maybe look at serving as treasurer or president or some type of leadership role in those organizations. And it doesn't mean that a student who joins 15 clubs is going to be more competitive than one who joins 5. It's really going to be colleges and scholarship grantors are looking for students who are actively engaged in those organizations. And they can see right through a student who lists 20 organizations because they know that a student couldn't be actively involved in all 20. And so just be intentional about that and try to make sure your students are involved in organizations and activities that really align with what they have an interest in. The next thing is to make sure your students are taking rigorous courses. And so AP classes or dual enrollment classes that could look different for each student, right? And so there'll be some students, for them, the most rigorous class they can take is an AP. And then for others, they may just decide it's easier for them, or they want to really get a feel for what attending a college is really like. And so maybe they decide to do dual enrollment. I would strongly encourage you to have a conversation with your school counselor about which one is going to be the best fit for you, because that is going to vary depending on the type of college that your student plans on applying to. And then lastly, on here is to have your student to start documenting any of their volunteer experiences. So whether they're volunteering here at school with a club or organization, or with a group at church, or something in your neighborhood, anytime your student is volunteering, I would highly encourage you to start a spreadsheet now, or some type of list that allows them to capture where they've donated their time, how many hours that were donated, what type of activities, were done, and maybe even keeping track of a reference or a contact person if they needed to reach back out to them by the time they become a senior to confirm or to get more details about that volunteer experience. I want to take a minute and stop and see if there are any questions about FAFSA, financial aid, or scholarships before I move on to the next topic. Ms. Milligan, do we have any questions in the chat?
I don't see any questions in the chat, and I was looking for hands. I don't see hands, but feel free to unmute yourself. Ms. Garcia?
Yes, I do have a question. My son is in the 11th grade, and he was planning on doing dual enrollment, which didn't happen because he needed to have some Algebra 1 background before he took any college algebra classes. Mm-hmm. So he placed that on hold. His application was completed, and they approved it. So there is a login ID for that. So he had to apply also for some financial aid for the dual enrollment. So I'm wondering if that is the same ID that will be used for the FAFSA application, or is that a different?
No, and I'm actually gonna recommend you talk to, I want to say Mr. Prosper is, or no, it's maybe Miss Tiffany Brown is the dual enrollment contact person here at the school, to reach out to them directly to discuss your son's situation.
Okay, but it's not the same login ID and password for FAFSA.
No, the FAFSA application is its own, right? It's going to be a separate application.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And just in case anyone does need that information for our dual enrollment representative here at school at Central Gwinnett, it is Tiffany Brown, and I'm putting that information in the chat.
Okay. All right, so the next thing I wanted to spend some time talking about is post-secondary planning, and some things that students and parents can do to prepare themselves for this. And so when I say post-secondary planning, I'm speaking about helping students get prepared for a life after high school, helping students explore and plan for going to college or going into a career. And so one of the first things I think that is really helpful, and all of our students receive college and career guidance through their counselors every year, starting in the 6th grade. And so in high school, by the time they get to high school, they would have done this a couple of times. And so for students that are maybe a little unsure, or would like a little direction or confirmation about what type of career would be a good fit for them, I strongly encourage all students to start with taking a career interest inventory. And in Gwinnett County, our students have access to Navient and Virtual Job Shadow. Those programs are inside their student portal, so they don't have to go anyplace else or go to another website. When they log into their student portal, they have access to those 2 platforms. And both of those will allow students to take some assessments to answer a series of questions that are designed to help them identify a career cluster. And then once they have a career cluster, which is a group or a type of career pathways, they will have a chance to dig a little bit deeper and actually look at specific careers that they can spend some more time exploring or pursuing after high school. And so starting off with taking a career interest inventory, if your student has taken one, I would encourage you to ask them to tell you about their results and have some conversation about what type of options your student has access to. We talked about taking rigorous courses. This is going to help with college admissions. It's also going to help just with preparation. The more rigorous the courses your students take, the better prepared they will be to be successful in college, if that's the route they decide to pursue. Excuse me. The next thing I want to talk about is the importance of exposure. It really is one of the most important things to be considered during this process. And so I have a couple of bullets here, a couple of items listed that I strongly recommend students and parents do to just increase their exposure to the wide range of opportunities that exists for them after high school. And so for students, I think one of the things that is or can be really helpful is attending summer programs, whether it's athletic, whether it's volunteer. Many times college campuses will host different summer programs that students can attend to learn about and explore different career pathways or different programs. The other part is sometimes the community or companies or corporations will host summer programs that are designed to expose students to the opportunities within their particular pathway or industry. And so making sure that, and I would say in the spring, January, February, March, for students to start looking for summer program opportunities and activities in your local area at some colleges and universities. But again, many times if they're plugged into some of these extracurricular activities, they will also have access and information about many of the summer programs that are available to them. Next, and this one is directed at parents. It's really, really, really important that we start supporting students in their college exploration by visiting college campuses. And so many times they can't do that without you because they need transportation. They need support getting there. And even if it's not you as a parent, if there's a grandparent or older sibling or an aunt or uncle or cousin, someone that has access to transportation and is willing to take your student to visit a college campus, that is one of the most valuable pieces of this process, is allowing them to visit a campus, get a feel for what it's like to be there. And I think it's one of the best ways for them to start making decisions about whether or not a campus is a good fit for them. And so many of the colleges will advertise or post their open houses or special campus visitation programs on their admissions page, and they'll generally have the dates listed for the year along with a registration tool. And so if there are colleges that your student is thinking about or not, or just colleges that may be close by, I would encourage you to start doing that as early as 10th grade, to go ahead and start visiting, so that by the time they become a senior, they really are pretty confident and pretty sure about what schools they plan on applying to. Okay. One of the things that was always discouraging to me as a school counselor was meeting with seniors, and we talked about what colleges they want to apply to or what campuses they've had a chance to visit. Many times we have students who would say they haven't had a chance to visit a college campus yet. And so I think if parents understood how important that piece of the process was, it could just make a big difference in how many of our students are really prepared to make decisions about attending college. So parents, please, please, please. And if you ever have questions about that or not sure where to find the information, please reach out to your school's counselor, and we can certainly help you with that. The other piece is for parents is to encourage and arrange for your student to have career conversations with family and friends. And so if you have friends or family that work for certain corporations, if they work any place, right, I would just encourage you to make that part of your family conversations so that your student can learn as much as possible about a variety of different types of career opportunities. And so if you have maybe relatives that are in college or have graduated from college or work in a technical field or just work in an industry where you feel like you may be a good fit for your students, please encourage and help them make time to have some of those conversations with people that you have easy access to, your family, your friends, your neighbors. And then lastly on here, this is for the students, and this was mentioned earlier, but encourage them and support them and give them time and space to participate in school clubs and activities. I know sometimes students are not able to. They may have to get home to help supervise younger siblings, or they have other family obligations or responsibilities, and we totally understand that. But if they are able to participate maybe one day a week in a school club or activity, it would really help them in the long run. This second slide is really an exact duplicate. It's a duplicate of the previous slide. And so what I plan to do was really talk more about the career side, but instead this morning, I just want to point out the fact that whether a student is planning on going to college, going to work, going to the military, or they're unsure, the steps are still the same. Okay, and it's important that students and families and parents know that it's important that we allow students to explore all of their options. And I think it's really nice when students don't feel the pressure of trying to choose a career or a pathway because of family pressure or family expectations. And so please allow them to explore in all of these various ways, no matter if they plan on going to the military or to college, because sometimes students will change their mind. And I'd hate for them to not do steps 1, 2, or 3, and then they change their mind and they're not in a good position to apply for whatever that post-secondary option is. So please encourage them to do all the things we talked about on these last 2 slides, no matter what direction they are headed in. I mentioned several different resources during the presentation. I talked about some scholarship search engines. Those are listed here. The GA Futures site is the very first one. That is very important. All of our students, no matter what grade, should create an account on GA Futures. The second one is commonapp.org. That is something for primarily for seniors, but if you have a junior, it's a good time to go in and kind of explore the site. This is an application that allows students to apply to hundreds of colleges across the nation. But one of the things that will be helpful for students is to see the essay prompts. And so Common App will normally have about 5 to 6 essay prompts that students can choose from. And so if you have a junior who is really gung-ho and really motivated to want to start and want to know how they can get prepared for the college application process, going to Common App and looking at those essay prompts and getting started writing essays is a wonderful way to get started. And the rest of these here are pretty much scholarship search engines that your students can use to go and find scholarships to apply for. And that is all that I have prepared. I would love to entertain and answer any questions that you all have today about things that I have mentioned, and even things that maybe I didn't mention. Anything related to helping your student prepare for life after high school, whether it's college or career. I'm happy to answer any questions that you all have.
And right now, I don't have anything in the chat box, so you feel free to raise your hand or unmute and ask any questions that you might have. No questions at this time?
Ask her for the
There-
Katrina.
Yes, Ms. Garcia?
Yes, can you please provide the email for Miss Katrina for me to reach out to her?
Ms.
Oh,
Katrina, would
Miss
you?
Katrina, that's her, right?
Katrina Cole. Is she the one speaking right now?
Yeah.
That's fine. Yes, I would start with your counselor, Ms. Garcia. I'm here just one day a week.
Mm-hmm.
And so I want to make sure that your question gets answered quickly.
Okay, yeah. So my husband is here with me, and my son is in the 11th grade, so I think we still have time, although I want this to start right away.
Yes.
He is very motivated to go to college, and he has also even decided what major he wants to pursue. My husband and I didn't go to school here, so I feel a little lost right now as to where to start. I have received a letter from a service company that was asking for a monthly fee for them to give us resources, help with applications. So I wanted to ask your opinion about that, and if it's worth investing in that, or if there are additional resources, steps that I can take so I can help my son.
Thank you for asking that, Ms. Garcia. I will say that a lot of the resources and a lot of the support that you can receive from an agency like that, you can receive for free, starting at your local school. I am going to ask Ms. Milligan to put my email address in the chat, if you don't mind. You can reach out to me, Ms. Garcia, and I'll at least get you started, okay?
Okay.
Yes. And the other thing I want to mention is, if you would have your son, do you know who his counselor is?
I do not know.
I'm going to drop in the chat box the list of counselors. The counselors this year are a little bit different than last year. They're actually according to grade level and then the first letter of the student's last name. So I'll put that list in the chat box so you'll know who the counselor is.
Perfect. Thank you for your question.
And then I did receive one question in the chat box. It says, are there particular extracurriculars you'd recommend? That's from Miss Abby Hartos.
Okay, good question. I think it's going to depend on the student. You want it to be something that they enjoy, something they have an interest in. And so the important part is you don't want them to just join activities for the sake of joining activities or just to add it on a resume. You really want it to be something that is going to help them explore more about themselves or an interest they have. So it's going to depend on the student. Yeah, I think it's going to depend on the student. But I will say if they're not sure what clubs and activities are offered at Central Gwinnett High School, I would encourage them again to reach out to their counselor to make sure they have access to the options that are here.
And then Miss Dorka Elizabeth has her hand up. Ms. Dorka, do you have a question?
Ma'am.
Sí, buenos días.
Buenos días.
Buenos días. Mi hija está en el 11.
My daughter is in
pero ella es nueva aquí en Estados Unidos en la escuela. Ella podría calificar para beca.
So can she qualify for a scholarship?
I didn't hear the first part.
Yes, so my daughter is in 11th grade. She is recently starting school in the United States. Would she be able to qualify for a scholarship?
Student is an 11th grader, and there was a piece I missed.
I'm sorry. She is recently coming to the United States, starting school in the United States. Would she qualify for a scholarship?
Okay, so I'll say that is going to depend on her circumstances, but in many cases, a lot of the federal aid that I mentioned and the Hope Scholarship, the state aid, that is for either Georgia residents or U.S. citizens. However, there are some scholarships out there for students who are undocumented. And the counselor can help with making sure your student is aware of those scholarships if that was a situation for her. In the case that a student is undocumented, one of the best things they can do is to make sure their grades are as strong as possible, because there are schools outside of Georgia and there are organizations that will help to pay for students who are undocumented as long as they have good grades. One of the important things for people and parents to know is that people who give scholarships or organizations that give scholarships look at scholarships as a investment. So they're investing in your student because they see that they have talent, they have promise, and that they will finish college and go do great things in the world, right? And so in order for them to earn that money, they really have to have good grades, be involved in leadership activities in the school, hopefully, but there are opportunities out there for students who are undocumented.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you. And just so you know, if you're wondering, well, why wasn't that interpreted? Remember, we have the interpreter on the Spanish channel, so she was able to interpret that for the parent.
Oh, good. Okay.
And then any other questions? Oh, I did get another in the chat. It says, with FAFSA, do both parents apply or need IDs?
One parent.
Okay.
One parent.
Any additional questions? You guys have been asking wonderful questions. How can I access the recording? So I will do my best to get the recording out tomorrow, by tomorrow morning. I am going to say right now, there was an issue with the Spanish recording, so it will only be in English for this one, although we have Spanish interpretation during the meeting. So, but the recording will be in English. But I will send that out, and typically what I do is I will send it out to just all of the parents, stating, in case you missed our meeting, here's the recording. And I'll also have the presentation that Ms. Cole-Garner gave, so that you'll have a copy of it as well. Excuse me.
I have a question.
Yes.
I was the parent who asked the question about the two parent. Do both parents have to have the FAFSA IDs or apply? Now, is there a strategy to that? Like, as far as getting the most money, like, because I'm at home and not working, should I apply or should my husband? I mean, I didn't understand it.
So when you apply, as a parent, you'll be applying based on your household income anyway. So it will take into consideration your husband's income.
Okay.
It will. Right. But I'll tell you this, as you are applying for for financial aid, I would encourage you, if you have like strategy questions, to reach out to one of the financial aid counselors at the school your child is applying to. They can be really insightful and helping you to save you some time and headache sometimes.
Okay.
And so, the local school counselor won't be able to help as much with that part of it. So if you have specific questions, we also have a couple of local financial aid counselors that work really closely with us. And so if you wanted to speak to someone, if you reach out to your counselor, we could share the name of a couple of the counselors that we work with.
Yes. Okay. I would definitely like that, because when I'm filling out the FAFSA, it's applying for every school, right?
It is.
Is that how it works? Okay. Mm-hmm. So then I would be, if she applies to a lot of schools, then I would have to reach out to all of them. So
No, and you know what, ma'am, every school does things or can do things a little differently. And
Okay.
so I wouldn't encourage you to try to call 20, college financial aid offices, but just to get some general guidance, we can put you in touch with someone who could probably answer some of your questions.
Okay. Thank you
Okay.
so much.
You're welcome.
Okay. Two questions. One, the counselor for 11th grade. So it runs 10th through 12th. Ms. Garcia, what's your student's last name?
I got it. It's Pina Garcia, so he goes by
Okay.
PE. So I believe it's Emmanuel Rutledge.
Exactly. Okay,
Thank you.
perfect. You're welcome. And then Ms. Hartos is asking, do we fill out the FAFSA for our juniors or wait until they are seniors?
Good question. You're going to wait until they're seniors. So in October of their senior year is when you can start the application for them.
Okay. Man,
the other thing I did
questions. Sorry.
The one thing I didn't mention, if there's anyone on the call who has a student applying to a private school or some out-of-state school, there's another application out there, and it's called the CSS profile. That is an additional application that some colleges require. And so if your student is applying to, again, any of the private schools or some out-of-state schools, I would encourage you to check this list to see if the school is listed there, to make sure you don't miss any deadlines for their financial aid application. And again, it's called the CSS profile.
And I am putting the link to information about that from the College Board website is in the chat box.
Thank you.
You are welcome.
And I have a question, if there aren't any more questions for the parents. I would love to know how, I'll come back to you, Ms. Garcia, I won't forget. I would love to know how we could get more parents to participate in events like this, or even evening events where counselors sometimes want to host, let's say a parent night to share these types of informations and presentations. How do we get more parents to attend events like that? Any suggestions? Please throw them in the chat or unmute yourself.
I would say for me, like a text message update or invite would be super helpful because things get buried in the email.
Okay.
So if that's an option, or like when the school like calls and then texts at the same time, if there's, a delay for weather, that kind of update is always much more top of mind for me than email. Like today I rolled in 30 minutes late because I was like, oh, there was that email. Hold on. Where is it?
Okay.
So that would be super helpful.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I think probably the evening times are better. I'm working from home, so I'm able to squeeze it in, and even working from home, it's a squeeze right now. So I think probably something in the evenings is better.
Okay.
I think if you have a title about how to get the money, secure the bag for college, when parents realize that these are like strategies that are being shared to help, set their students up for success and to get an early jump start. My daughter's in 9th grade. I'm out here, I'm just trying to see what do I need to start thinking about doing as she proceeds on so that we can get a jump start.
Thank you for sharing that. When I talk to the different teams that I support, we often have conversations about the language. We've got to be very intentional about the language we use, because FAFSA for many is a foreign concept. And so what does that mean? And we're putting up flyers. We've got to make sure that parents and students know the importance of what they could get out of this experience. So thank you for saying that.
You're welcome.
Any more parents have some input, feedback?
Hey, I'd like to ask a question.
Yes.
Thank you so much. I also jumped on here a little late, but I was thinking, I remember, I guess pre-COVID, I don't know, but I remember there used to be college fairs at the schools. And I guess with COVID now, or maybe I'm just too old to remember, that it doesn't happen now, but is that something that would still happen if it weren't for COVID?
So thank you for asking that question. So I think COVID definitely has had an impact on the number of activities like that. And so one of the things to know is that there is a organization in Georgia, and they normally host what they call probe fairs. And so many of the high schools have been marketing and advertising for those fairs because they're able to draw in 75 to 100 plus colleges many times. And so I believe many of those may have already happened. Okay. But in terms of local college fairs or activities at Central Gwinnett High School, I know they're working on a couple of different activities to bring colleges. They always have colleges to come through during the day throughout the year for students to talk to. I would say it's probably not something that a lot of students take advantage of because it's many times during the lunchtime and they want to socialize and have lunch, which I totally understand. I know we met this morning and there's going to be a college and career week that week of November, right before Thanksgiving. And so there'll be a couple of different events happening at the school where some colleges and also workforce training programs will be here at the school. But in terms of whether or not, hold on, sorry. If they will host a college fair this year, I have not heard that, but I will make sure to ask the question. And if so, did you have a suggestion or about the time of day?
For those college fairs?
For college fair,
I'm with some of the other parents. I work from home certain days of the week, and thank God I'm home today, but evenings would be great. And I feel like if it were, I guess, branded, as an opportunity to, come and get more information and just to make it more, I guess, inviting for the students to want to do it. I think if the students really want to attend, then the parents would come. If that, you got to use the lingo and all that to get them to do that. And I did have one more question too. Yes. Once you respond to that, my son is a senior, and bless his little heart, he doesn't. He knows what he wants to do, but it's like, okay, we gotta cover the basics first, right? We need to take the ACT and the SAT, and I can't really get him to settle down to, do that. He's like, okay, I'll do it next time. It's time to sign up for. Oh no, not now. Let me wait till after football season. Well, let me wait till, okay. So now we're getting down to crunch time. And my biggest concern is that if we don't buckle down and focus, he's going to be here with us after graduation, which we, So anyway, he mentioned, maybe just taking a year off to find himself. My husband and I are not in support of that. So my thing is at least go to school and start working on your core class. I don't care where he goes, just go. So what do you do if you have a kid who is kind of like all over the place with?
So two things. One is I'm in agreement. It became kind of popular, this whole idea of taking a gap year where students want to take a year off to find themselves or just kind of regroup. I'm not a fan of gap years unless they are enrolled in a structured program. So if they just want to stay home and work, I think that's dangerous because many times the next thing you know, 3 years have gone by and they're enjoying making the money they're making as an 18 or 19-year-old. But then by the, I think it takes them away from the focus of, so I'm not a fan of gap years. In your case, two things. I mentioned College and Career Week. We're going to be doing a couple of activities here at Central Gwinnett. I would ask you to please reach out to your son's counselor and make sure he is invited to some of those sessions. We're going to have some sessions where students can sign up, come into a computer lab, and I'll be there and some counselors will be there to help them get started with no matter where they are in the process. So if they need to start on a college application, if they need to sign up for the SAT, if they need to start their FAFSA application, if they need to have a conversation about, I'm not quite sure where to start, they can do all of that in one of those sessions, okay? So please ask your student, or you reach out to the counselor by email and let them know you want to make sure he's enrolled in one of those. They will give him a pass to attend.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Do we have any additional questions? I have two hands up. Ms. Garcia?
Yes, I don't know if this is the topic of the meeting, but another parent mentioned SATs and taking tests. Like I said, my son is in 11th grade, and I heard that there are practice tests that he can start taking, so he is prepared when he has to take the SAT. Where can I get that information, and how do I get my son prepared? Is there additional resources that he can use, or even attend conferences or classes? I'm not sure if that's available.
Great question. A great place for him to start. One is to the College Board and the ACT uses Khan Academy, KHAN Academy, and they do or give practice tests. They also will score the test, and there's all type of resources and support that comes after a student has completed a practice test. Those are free, and they can get access to those. They'll start on collegeboard.org.
Okay.
And so the other thing for you to know, Ms. Garcia, is that we strongly encourage juniors to take the SAT and the ACT in the spring. I would say anytime after February for juniors to take it, so they can get a feel for which test they perform better on. Some students prefer the ACT and some prefer the SAT. That's why we want them to take both as a junior, so that when they take it again as a senior, they can really focus on maybe one test versus the other. They still can take both as a senior, but it just gives them a chance to experience it and test it out.
Are they both accepted by all colleges across the board?
Pretty much most colleges will accept either or. And if a student gets free or reduced lunch, they can get a fee waiver from the school, so they don't have to pay for taking the test. Okay. And they can get 2 of those fee waivers for the SAT and then 2 for the ACT.
Okay.
Okay. And we generally, most schools will start giving those waivers out in the 11th grade. Any grade but before that, we typically do not. We prefer students wait until the 11th grade before using the waiver.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Garcia. And Ms. Dorca Elizabeth?
Mi pregunta es, mi hija me comunicó que quiere tomar clase de verano. Entonces, mi pregunta es, ¿le dan una materia específica o le dan todas las materias en el verano?
So my daughter told me that she would need to attend summer school. So are there specific classes during summer school that she would have to take, or just like one class? So sorry, go ahead, Ms. Cole-Garner.
No, I'm just going to say that's going to depend on your student situation. So she really needs to make an appointment to see her counselor to find out what classes she needs to take.
Okay. Okay. Gracias. Okay. Any additional questions? Ms. Garcia, is your hand still up, or was that from last time?
It was last time. I'm not sure how to.
Oh, no worries. I can put it down for you.
Okay, thank you.
I have one last question about checking to see if your kid's social security number is registered. Is it just going onto the Georgia Futures and then checking that way?
Yes, and then so is your student's social security number on file here at school?
I'm sure it is. Yes, I think so. She came from Archer, now she's at Soda. So I'm sure it is.
Yes, she should be able to log into her account and make sure that that is there. The other thing, it will prompt students to enter their social security number. And so excuse me, sometimes we can get an error message if what the student puts in or enters does not match what we have on file at the school. So now's a good time to double check. And if you have any issues with that, please reach out to your student's counselor and they can help you with that.
Okay, and that's the georgiafutures.org.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Anything additional? You guys have been asking great questions. Okay.
When can you expect the next meeting? I know that it's a lot of information and probably I'll forget half of it in the next couple of weeks. So forgive me if I just feel like I need to get as much information as I can now.
Before I forget too, Ms. Milligan, did you post those grade level checklists?
Yes, I did.
Okay,
I did. And I posted them earlier. So what I'll do is I will post them again in case anyone came in afterwards, because with Zoom, if you come in after it's posted, you don't see the chat before. So I'll repost them in a moment. And then Ms. Garcia, that is an excellent question. So Ms. Cole-Garner asked to talk with our parents, and we had the coffee chats last year. So it was just a way, particularly with the pandemic going on and not necessarily coming into the school, that we started doing these during the day. We do have meetings in the evening as well, but this was just kind of an opportunity to kind of chat with parents. And so we're actually going to be getting together with Ms. Cole-Garner as far as setting up some more meetings, working with the counselors so that you can continue to get additional information, this type of information that you're asking. The other thing that I would suggest as well is that whenever you get an opportunity to give input about what you would like, just be sure, and this is to everyone, not just Ms. Garcia, be sure to let us know. That way we can tailor what the meeting is about to what you need and what you would like to learn. For instance, when this information was sent out, there was a survey in English and Spanish as far as letting us know what you need and what we can help with. So just be sure to let us know, or you can always email me or call me and let me know, because I keep a list, and that way I can work back and forth with Ms. Cole-Garner, with the counseling department as far as these types of meetings.
Thank you.
You are welcome. I do have something I put in the chat, and it's an evaluation. So if you could click on that, and that will also help as well. And it just ask what information, how you felt about the information that was received today, even ask about different times and things like that, what you feel like the school can do to help you. So that would be great if you could fill out that evaluation. I'll also have that evaluation posted with the information that I send out with the video. So in case you're not able to grab it today, just be sure to look for it with the email that has the video and the PDF of today's meeting. And that's very helpful, because I go through that and try to respond back, but that's also something that we share with people like Ms. Cole-Garner and others with family engagement at the county, so that we can see how to involve even more families. Okay. Can we get a list of those local financial aid counselors' names and info listed in the chat? I know you mentioned, Ms. Cole-Garner, about that, but I don't know if you have a list or not.
I don't, but here's what I will tell you. Just Georgia Gwinnett College, which is not far from Central Gwinnett High School, they will, if they're one of the schools you're considering, they will, if you're working on your FAFSA application, you could actually go to their campus to get help with filling out with your FAFSA. I don't have a list that I can share with you, but if you have, again, a specific question that you have for a counselor, please reach out to your child's counselor. We'll get the information to you. And then again, remember, you have that 800 number that I shared that will take you directly to the Federal Student Aid helpline. Federal Student Aid is the agency that owns the FAFSA. And so it's their staff that will answer those phone calls and answer any questions that you have.
And when I send out this recording, I always go through and get any emails that were mentioned or anything that we put in the chat. I also put that with the presentation so that you have a listing of all the websites that were mentioned, whether it was in the presentation, the PowerPoint or not, just so everyone knows. Thank you, Ms. McNeil, for asking that. And what I was doing right now was going back to get the checklist that Ms. Cole-Garner mentioned so that I can share them again. So there is an 11th, 12th grade checklist, and there is a 9th, 10th grade checklist. I just put the 11th and 12th grade in, and the 9th and 10th grade. And I'm also gonna resend the FAFSA checklist that she mentioned as well.
I strongly encourage you all to use those checklists. I think they're a nice guide when you have, 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade students. If you're wondering, okay, is he or she doing everything they need to do? Are we in good shape? Do we need to complete any items or any actions? Those checklists sort of provide a guide to help your students stay on track.
Okay, let me make sure I sent them to the right people. Okay, so you should be able to see the 9th and 10th grade checklist, 11th and 12th grade, and FAFSA checklist that I just reposted in the chat box. Okay. All right. Any additional questions? I did want to mention just briefly a couple of things that were coming up as far as just general school stuff in case people had questions or anything like that, just for kind of like a general section of the meeting. And I'm gonna share my screen. Okay, you should see the nightly notes from this past week. And I just want to mention a couple of things just as parents to keep in mind. We're at October 27th. So this is kind of that time of the semester where things start happening, a lot of things outside of school. There's Thanksgiving break coming up. And then we have 3 weeks after Thanksgiving break, and it'll be the end of the semester. So make sure that you're aware of where your student is academically. If they're needing some type of assistance in with their grades, getting assignments, please communicate with your teachers. A simplified progress report went out week before last, so that gave you an idea of where your child is, but you also always have Parent Portal. I can't stress to you enough the importance of being on Parent Portal, getting into Parent Portal and checking it regularly so that you know where your child is academically. Couple of things coming up with highlights for the calendar. November 9th is a digital learning day. So that is another day. Remember that all students are learning from home. And then on the 22nd through the 26th is Thanksgiving break. That's a good opportunity. Like if your child is behind on something, to get the work before Thanksgiving break, that they might have some additional time to work on some things, but you'll need to check with the teachers to see what might still be able to be turned in or what can be done. The final exams, GCPS final exams are December 15th through 17th. because we have 8 classes here at Central, we typically have a day or 2 days before that for final exams. So just keep that in mind. I already have families who have been calling the Parent Center, double checking about winter break and if their students can take their exams early, and they cannot take their exams early. So what happens if you're planning to go out of the country, starting December 20th is when the prices shoot up high. So if you leave like a week early, the prices are a lot lower. And so what can happen is sometimes, usually around that 15th or 16th when the exams start, is when the prices are a little bit lower. And some families might think, well, we can leave then and just take the exams early. But the rule is students cannot take exams early. So just keep that in mind. I've already had probably like 3 families call about that this week. So just remember that they would have to wait until they came back after winter break to take the exams. So they can take them late, but they can't take them early. So just keep that in mind as you might be planning for any type of vacation for winter break. And then the students come back on January 6th after winter break. And in that newsletter, it has the calendar for the year, just to keep in mind for the future. There are also some opportunities there, like Grayson Tech, which is a great way to explore post-secondary careers, post-secondary options. So those are things to keep in mind. Grayson Tech, Maxwell High School, some of their programs, students can get certifications for the work world while still in school for free. So that's a great way to explore careers. And then the other thing I want to mention is with Family School, our Family School Partnership Advisory Council. This is GCPS Title I. So we have the Central Gwinnett High School, like Parent Center and Family Engagement. This is at the county level, so all families are invited. If you click here, because that was a little smaller, but if you click here, you can register to attend. And that is November 4th, which is next week from 5:30 to 6:30, and it is a virtual meeting. They will have English and Spanish interpretation available. And that's a good way to know how family engagement is going on throughout the district and just different aspects of support that families receive from Gwinnett County Public Schools. So if you have any questions about that, please let me know. And I would love to have some parents from Central Gwinnett register and attend. It's an hour, and you don't have to turn on your video or anything. You can just listen in, but it's a lot of good information that is good to know. Okay. And the other thing, since we have several Spanish speakers and other languages that are here, just remember with these nightly notes that in your copy that you have, you can always translate it to, and I'm scrolling down, to whichever language you would like, just so that you can see what the information is there. Okay. Are there any questions about anything that I mentioned or anything else? All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget about the evaluation. And like I said, if you couldn't pull it to right now, sometimes it's hard on the phone, I will be sending out the link to that again so that you're able to complete that. And that would be great because that gives us, like I said, your input and your opinion. And we do greatly value that and appreciate that. Okay. Well, in that case, thank you for joining us today. And we look forward to seeing you soon at another event. And we wish you a good day. And stay dry tomorrow. I've heard it's supposed to get a little wet the next couple of days. So take care. Bye, everyone.